Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm glad to see a lot of familiar names, and I see a couple familiar faces on the call. Welcome. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brian Lambert. I'm the Director of Marketing for the section of Real Property Trust and Estate Law, and wanted to welcome you today to our demonstration. It is at Notarize, and we have Arushi Joshi on the call, and also Paul Todd on the call as well from at Notarize. They're going to walk you through a demonstration of their platform. And just a reminder that there is no CLE for this program, but it is also an opportunity for all of the attorneys and everyone on the call to learn about this platform and hopefully utilize it in the future for yourself or your clients. So with no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Arushi.
Good morning and good afternoon to everybody. It's great to be able to do a webinar where you can actually see people's faces or at least the names on the screen. So I'm very glad to virtually see some of you. My name is Arushi. I'm the founder and CEO of @Cash, which is the parent company. It's a technology company, and one of our platforms is @Notarize. As the name suggests, it's a platform for electronically notarizing, but it's also a platform for electronic signatures and also video signings. So there's a lot of functionality packed into that. Even though this is a product demonstration, I am hoping to add some value to everybody here and talk about remote online notarization and some of the challenges as well as some of the opportunities. By all means, we would absolutely love to hear any questions you have. That a lot of you on this call, it's hard to gauge how much you'll already know about this, but I'm sure some of y'all can school us in it. So by all means, save your questions to the end and we'll go through at least 15 minutes of Q&A. I'm hoping this is an interactive session. It is being recorded. And if any of you is not comfortable speaking out your questions, by all means, put it in the chat. I think, Chris, if there's nothing else to add from your side, I can jump right into the presentation. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. If you can see my screen, please let me know in the chat. The thing with a live demo is always we're in the hands of the demo gods. So let's hope and pray that the demo gods like us today. We did do our offerings in the morning, so hopefully they'll be placated. So I'm going to start sharing my screen and talk to you about the agenda and what we're going to cover. Give me a second. Can you see my screen? I'm assuming you can. Let me put it in full screen mode.
Looks like you're live.
You can see me, Paul, right?
Yes, you're live.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so the agenda for today is I plan to spend about 15 minutes talking about RON and a little bit about who we are and how we're different. Another 15 minutes talking about some of the legislation around RON and the types of notarizations. And we will then do the most exciting part of our demo, which is the live demonstration. And Paul, who is with us, is a notary, and he will okay, so he will lead us through the notary portion, and then we will talk about how you can sign up and what are some of the benefits as an ABA member that you have. So without much ado, let's just run into it, go right into it, into the overview. So as I mentioned at the top of this call, I'm with @Cash, which is the parent technology company, and we build technology solutions, and we are well versed in the space of blockchain and distributed ledger technology. I mentioned that because we are one of the first platforms, and the only one I know of, there could be others, that have the notarization solution on the blockchain. What that means is that we are able to offer an unprecedented level of trust in our transactions because there is an immutable log of transactions on the blockchain. So that is something that is definitely unique about us. The second thing is, not only are we offering a notarization platform, we're offering an e-signature platform where you can also do video signings and video testimonies, or just video evidencing with your client. If there is something that you want to capture in a video evidence, you can definitely use the same technology that we have. So it's sort of an incredible one-stop solution for all your needs. And I'm not sure if there are any large law firms on this call, but we also have the opportunity to license our platform and build bespoke solutions for yourself and your clients, if that's what you want. If you're a smaller law firm or an individual attorney who's just looking for a software as a service or just a software they can use, then we've got that solution as well. And that's what @Notarize is. It's where you can subscribe and use the platform. But we also have a model where you can license the technology. I've already been through parts of the technology where I've said, we've got the blockchain, we've got some patents. What's interesting here is within our technology, we've got the ability to verify identity inbuilt into the platform. We have facial recognition and liveness. We are integrated with Agora, which is a audio video platform, which is very, very well recognized in the space. And we use that, to do our video meetings, and you'll see the quality and all of that through the demonstrations. And of course, from a business perspective, this is a very, very large space. There are a number of notarizations done annually within the United States. The e-signature market is significant. Our technology can also be used for onboarding clients. So there's just a lot of business opportunity for us. I am the founder. I previously worked at Deloitte, Visa, and MasterCard. I am also a notary in the state of Texas. I am a relatively new notary, but I am an electronic notary that's done RONs. And I've got a very, very strong technical team and team of notaries that's with the platform. So if you're looking to use our notaries will be well trained in your business. And if you're a large client, they will be customized to your business. So notarization is not on everybody's favorite thing to do. It's something that has to be done, yet sometimes it's difficult. Doing simple things, at least from your client's perspective, can be difficult, whether it's giving a power of attorney, whether it's closing a home, or whether it's proving the identity, or a whole set of notarizing tasks. It is a challenge for them. And how we make it easy is obviously through our platform, which, as I mentioned, has e-signatures, remote online notarization, the ability to capture video testimonies, and video signing. So I won't say what's wrong with in-person notarization, but what are some of the challenges with in-person notarization? So if your client is traveling globally, or is out of state, or is socially distancing, or is just unwilling, unable to come into your office to notarize documents or go to a notary, then you have to find an alternate solution. The second is, it is much cheaper to train your notaries or to use external notaries using a remote online platform than it is to expect them to go in person, because there might be a lot more overhead costs, not necessarily the cost of notarization. And of course, the notary availability is always a challenge. The client has to be available, the notary has to be available. There's a lot of coordination required. And finally, there is a risk of doing traditional notarizations, which is it's easy to manipulate both the documents and the notary logs. There's a risk of alteration. There's a lack of evidence. There's a significant amount of evidence captured in a remote online notarization transaction. And of course, it's static. It cannot be shared. So that is another opportunity. And if you find yourself in these circumstances or are just looking for a differentiator to offer to your clients, remote online notarization might be an option for you. So, I thought it would be interesting to look up the word remote online notarization in the dictionary. And I found, at least in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, there is no definition of remote online notarization. So I broke the words down to see if the definition would make sense, and it actually makes perfect sense. So remote obviously relates to doing something from a distance. Online obviously involves using telecommunications, and notarization is the act of notarizing. So that's what it would mean if we just broke down the words and tried to define remote online notarization. But if we get a little more specific, what remote online notarization is it's the process by which an electronic notary, I say electronic notary because many states require their notaries to have an electronic commission, but there are some states that do not, that allow all the notaries to notarize electronically. So that's just something to keep in mind, whether your state requires an electronic notary or not, but a process by which an electronic notary electronically signs and seals the document, electronic document, a lot of electronic, the word electronic is used several times here. And the document is encrypted and the notary signs using their private key. So public key encryption is used to encrypt the notary's signature, and the document is encrypted. And this helps ensure that the document is not manipulated. And it's generally done, almost always done using a RON platform. Most states have specific requirements about what the RON platform should adhere to, and most of the platforms strive to adhere to that, including us. So what is a generic flow for a remote online notarization? So a generic flow is a notary with an electronic commission accesses a notarization platform such as @Notarize to either create an appointment for the client, or they have their client directly go and upload a document for notarization. So the first step is always uploading some sort of a document. The second step, which is required by almost all legislation, is multi-factor authentication. This multi-factor authentication includes what's called credential analysis and a KBA, which is called identity proofing. So credential analysis and identity proofing. And in layman's terms, it's basically verifying a person's driver's license electronically and having them go through a knowledge-based authentication, which are those 5 questions that are given specific to you about where you've lived or your zip code. So that's your knowledge-based questions only you know, and that's how we're able to authenticate you. The next step might be payment. I say might be because a law firm may choose to pay on behalf of the client. That is followed by a call with a notary. The client then calls the notary, who then gets on a video call with the client and digitally stamps and signs the document. Once this notarial act is completed, the document is notarized and is available for the client and the notary. And on the right is a little screenshot of or a visual of what our platform looks like, but you can see it in all its glory during the demo. So our difference is that we are end-to-end digital. We comply with the state regulations. We make onboarding easy, and we train our clients where it makes sense. And we've got different business models to help you through. And I've already mentioned the benefit of blockchain. So the benefits of blockchain, we don't have to go into what blockchain really does. That itself is a separate seminar, but what's important to note here is blockchain uses an additional factor of security beyond what remote online notarization already offers. It's almost impossible to change or manipulate records that are on the blockchain or to challenge them. So let's go into the next section. I want to see how we're doing on time. I think we're bang on time. I'm just going to get a timer going for this section. So let's talk about probably an area that you'll have significant interest, which is the law surrounding remote online notarization. I'm not an attorney, and the laws are constantly changing in every state. However, I think this is probably the money slide in terms of at least notaries, because it tells you which states have permanently enabled remote online notarization, which states have temporarily enabled remote online notarization, which states do not allow remote online notarization. Now, I want to be clear about one thing. When I'm talking about this slide, I'm referring to the notary's ability within that state to electronically notarize the document. I am not referring to a client's ability to get a document notarized. So for example, California does not allow its notaries to perform electronic notarizations, but that does not mean you cannot have a notary from the state of Texas notarize a document for a client in California, right? So it's not that remote online notarized documents are not accepted, though you have to check on a case-by-case basis whether the document will be accepted or not in these states. But in the other states that are green, you can pretty much be certain that the document should be accepted because there is legislation. And if it is not, you can definitely challenge it and say that the legislation permits remote online notarization. When I did the slide, just, at the beginning of the year, about 20 to 30% more of the states were blue. And today, over 36% are green, and we've got New Jersey and Maine, which will become green in October. So I kind of struggle with whether we mark it green or not now. So this list is always evolving. There are some good resources at the bottom of this presentation that you could potentially use to do your, let me minimize it. So you can use to reference what the status is with these states. But the majority of the states do allow the electronic notaries to perform RON, or remote online notarization. There are a few states that allow their notaries to do it on a temporary basis, but the trend we are seeing is that the temporary states are fast becoming permanent. And there are the outliers, such as California mainly, but also DC, New York, and Connecticut allowed temporary online notarization. Those statutes have now expired, and we don't know what they're going to do about it, but we hope they will make it permanent. Okay, so types of notarization. We don't have to get into a lot of detail on it, but it's fascinating that there are so many different types of notarization. And I did want to go through it at a very high level to share what the different types of notarizations are. So everybody's familiar with the traditional wet ink notarization. That's where a notary, you've got a paper document, and the notary notarizes the document with the client in front. The client presents a driver's license. The notary just looks at the driver's license, adds that information to their notary log. They might also say, I personally know this individual, and they maintain a notary journal. So it's the most common type of notarization that you're familiar with. But there are also a lot of offshoots to this notarization. So the two interesting ones are paper remote online notarization and remote ink online notarization. In both cases, you actually mail a package to a notary, and the notary then gets on a video call using a platform or using Skype or FaceTime or what have you, and verifies the customer or the client. In paper remote online notarization, they actually verify using a platform, and they do an identity verification and KBA, whereas remote ink they just use an audiovisual platform. This was used quite a bit when the notary platforms weren't sophisticated and people were just looking for a workaround. But if you were going to do it that way, I would highly recommend going the paper remote online notarization versus using a regular audio video software to do this, because it's not fit for purpose. And an in-person electronic notarization is both of them are face-to-face, but the documents are electronic. And so you go through that whole process electronically, okay? But the identity is similar to an in-person verification method. And then finally, the remote online notarization process, which we have spoken about, which is the process by which both the customer and the notary are electronic. They upload the documents electronically, they go through credential analysis and identity proofing electronically, and then they sign and stamp the documents electronically, and also the log of the transactions is electronic. So here are some examples of the kind of things you can do using a platform such as ours. You can use it for real estate closings, though there are some specific requirements around real estate closings with e-notes. Then there is the general notary work, which is probably what you're most interested in. Then there's video evidence, which is a new category altogether, but it's where you get on a call with a client, and instead of just getting on a Zoom call and recording it, you would get on our platform on a call and maybe have a client sign a document, right? And it would work the same way. We call it video signing. It would work the same way as a notarization, except on the other end, you will not have a notary. You can have whoever you want. You can have an attorney, you can have a paralegal, whoever needs to sign the document. There are some other interesting use cases on how this platform can be used to reduce overhead in reporting, in claims, and then of course, identity verification. Here is a list of documents which we tried to group into the different types of categories, but a lot of these documents might cross over multiple categories. Of course, there are a number of, acknowledgements, jurats, affirmations, oaths. You've got a number of power of attorney documents. You've got a number of property related documents that have to do with either the purchase, sale, or expression of one's property. You've got, on the estate side, you've got wills and living trusts. What I should mention in this space is some of these documents require a witness or multiple witness. So for example, a trust document or a will document will require two witnesses. And you can, on our platform, have witnesses and even observers in a transaction. So you can have multiple people signing a document on the call. All of them will have their identity verified with the exception of an observer. Okay, and then of course, you've got the medical consent forms of different types, and you've got a number of family related forms. So if there are any family law attorneys, this is not a comprehensive list by any means. I'm sure there are more, but here's just a quick list of documents that need to be notarized that we can notarize. Okay, so I'm going to actually, before we go into the demo, let me maybe share with you what it is that you're going to see in the demo to prepare you for what you're going to see. So what we're going to do is we're going to log into the platform, which is @Notarize, but we're going to log into the demo server. And that is because we do not want to be doing these transactions on the live environment. So the demo server is just our test server. It is a duplicate of our live server without any client data in it. So we're going to use the demo server. We're going to do a transaction where a notary initiates a transaction. So in our platform, there are numerous ways that you can initiate a request for notarizing a transaction. The The first way is where a notary sets up an appointment on behalf of the client. And this notary can be doing it because a law firm asked them to do it. They could be an in-house notary for the law firm, or they are an independent notary and the client is their customer. So they could set up an appointment. They could do it for a single signer. As I said, you can have multiple people, including witnesses, on a call. So they could set up that appointment for either a single signer or multiple signers. The second way that you can initiate a transaction is the client can go on the client portal, and I've got links to all of these portals, and they can just upload their document and request to notarize a document either live or with an appointment, right? And if our notaries are online, they can do it then and there. If they're not, they can set up an appointment and notarize that for a client. And the third, which is actually new and which we've done in partnership with our discussions with the Bar Association, is the attorneys can initiate transactions. So, and when I say attorneys, I include other people associated with a law firm. That could be a paralegal or a support staff that initiate on behalf of the client. The only difference between how a notary initiates it and how an attorney initiates it is that the attorney has to have an additional step of selecting the notary, right? So they can either say, you know, I have a in-house notary, that's what I want to use, or they can select a notary from our list of notaries, right? So that's the only difference, and there are one or two other subtle differences, but by and large, when we go through the notary initiated flow today, you will get a very good sense of how you could initiate a transaction as well from that portal, from your own portal. Okay, so what are some of the factors to consider in basically initiating or doing a remote online notarization? The first thing is who's going to initiate the request. That's just something you have to keep in mind. Am I going to have the client go and upload the document? Am I going to ask my notary to do it? Or am I going to set up the appointment and, you know, just ask the notary and the client to go ahead and notarize the document? Then there are roles for the people on the call. The notary, obviously, once you select a notary, that role is not something that is changeable, but you could say, okay, I have multiple signers on the call. You can only have one primary signer, but you can have as many signers as you want. So if it's a husband and wife, or, you know, a buyer or seller or what have you, there'd be one primary signer and the other one would be just a signer. You can have witnesses. The witnesses essentially have the same functionality that anybody else does. It's just a label that helps clarify who they are on a call. An observer is different because an observer does not need to go through an identity verification. So for example, if you are an attorney and you are setting up an appointment for a client, but you also want to be on the call to maybe handhold the client or just be on the call, you can be on that call as an observer and you don't have to go through an identity verification. The other thing is either you can upload the document on behalf of the client. So you've prepared a document, so you've already got it prepared and you just upload it and you add some basic tags for signature, or you send it to the notary and ask the notary to upload it, or you give it to the client and ask them to upload it. So in our process, anybody can upload the document, but whoever uploads it, the other person will be asked to verify that it's the correct document. The other consideration is who pays. So for example, if you want us to bill the client, we can bill the client. If you say, well, I am on retainer and, you know, I do not want you to bill the client, just tell me what the client would have paid and bill me for it, you can do that. And if you've got notaries and you want the notaries to use this platform independently for your firm, you can do that. Or, you know, provide this as a perk to your notaries. They can sign up on our platform. They can notarize for you and also for others. They can also pay, or they can use the corporate card to pay. So there's some flexibility in how the payments happen. The notary selection, as I said, if you are a law firm with existing notaries and you just want to use a platform, that will allow your in-house notaries to notarize for your clients, then the software allows you to do that. Just your notary just signs up on our platform, and then they associate with your law firm and they can notarize for you. And if they want to notarize for others, they can do that as well. If you do not have a notary and you want us to provide a notary, you can do that as well. You can either choose to work with a select set of notaries that maybe you've had some good experience with, or just work with a different notary each time. The selection is up to you. In terms of verification method, I've already mentioned there's a standard requirement for how identity can be verified, which includes the driver's license and KBA. You also have personal knowledge, which is where the notary, and only the notary can make this decision, is that I know the client. So if the notary says, I know the client and I do not need the identity proofing or KBA, then that's also something the system allows you to do. But they need to make sure they comply with their local regulations to complete any certificates that need to accompany that. So with that, I'm going to hand over, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to hand over to Paul. Paul Todd is our notary. He's a very experienced notary. Paul, I'll let you introduce yourself and then jump into the demo.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. I think you should be good now.
Beautiful. And there we go. Okay, first, let's just check, make sure everybody can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Beautiful. So thank you everybody for the opportunity. Again, my name is Paul Todd and I'll be your quote unquote notary navigator for today. And hopefully I'll make this as fun and painless for you as possible as we go through our @Notarized platform. Arushi has already kind of given you the lay of the land. So I'm going to give you the visual of all of the items that she just mentioned. So we'll walk through it step by step, but I promise not to try to teach you how to do the system. I'm going to give you the overview to keep things simple. So one of the things that she mentioned earlier was starting a new session. So this is the dashboard for a notary, and I'm going to show you one track, which would be a notary initiating the actual session. Now, obviously, we have talked about if you're an attorney and you have maybe a notary on staff or a notary you've been using in the past that you love and you want to continue to use, well, they can also sign up for this platform and you can continue to use them as well. However, for the purpose of this demo, we will look at this as if you were employing somebody like myself at Notarized to do your notarizations for you. So there's two ways to start a new session or a new notarization online. One way is just to click the new session button right here that you see on the screen. The other way would be to go to notarization appointments and you can start a new session. Let's just dive right in. So we're going to start our new session. And the very first thing that we're going to do is we have to upload a document. Now, keep in mind, if the attorney already has a prepared document, that attorney can email the notary and the notary can go ahead and upload it and start that transaction. But also maybe the customer is going to be responsible for that. We will show you in just a moment how the customer can also upload a document as well when you see me switch over to the customer side. Before this demonstration, I will go ahead and upload that document. There we go. Beautiful. And now that's uploaded, we'll go ahead and click the next button. And so this screen brings us to our recipients. As Rushi mentioned earlier, you have different roles for the signers. Again, you're always going to have a primary signer, but then you can also have additional signers, such as if there was a husband and wife situation, maybe that's two business partners. In some situations, there may be a need for a witness, which is the third option here. Maybe the client is notarizing a will. A lot of wills require two witnesses. So we can add those witnesses. And by simply putting in their name and email address, I can assign a primary signer, additional signers, as well as witnesses, just by simply adding their names, their email address, and then adding a recipient. And then I can assign a role for each person. Now, there may be situations where maybe, especially in estate plan, I'm sure you guys can appreciate this. You're dealing with maybe an elderly client, and maybe there is a older child that's the responsible child, and they're the ones that kind of help take care of mom or dad, and they want to be on the call as well, but they're not a person that's actually in the document that needs to sign. Well, just like the attorney can be on there or the paralegal can be on the call as an observer, well, also, if they have a trusted daughter or son that they want on the call, they could be on there as an observer, and the observers do not have to go through any identity verification. They can just be there to watch and make sure everything is going smoothly. Only your signers and your witnesses have to do the ID verification. Another nice feature with this system is there are times where you may have to get multiple documents notarized by the same client. And there may be a process. Maybe one document has to be notarized first for you to start the process, and then maybe a week later, you're doing all this processing behind the scenes, and there's another document that comes up that needs to be notarized. Well, as a notary, if you're using the same notary, they can literally come in and click this address book button, and every time you add a signer, they're added to this list. So rather than taking the chance of misspelling a name or an email address, you can simply choose from the already provided list of recipients that maybe that notary's used in the past, if it's the same client. So I'm going to go ahead and use Ms. Arushi for this example. She'll be our primary signer. And we're not going to do any witnesses for this example. So we'll go ahead and go next. Okay, so this is the part where the notary really can kind of take charge, especially if the attorney has provided the documents up front. It can really make the process very simple for the actual customer or the client end user, if you will, that we're notarizing, simply because there are several options that we can go ahead and start filling out the paperwork or pre-fill a lot of the data prior to that signing. Those things can be signatures. We can annotate a signature, not actually putting their signature on the document, but we can actually set up the document so that when we start the notarization session, all they have to do is click a button and they're done. The signature's there, it's perfect. So things like that to make it very easy for your customer. It's very user-friendly. Also dates. If you want to go ahead and pre-fill dates, if I know we're going to be doing this notarization today, it'd be a great opportunity for me to go ahead and put the date on there so the client doesn't have to deal with that, and now I can speed up the process, right? Also, as the notary, a lot of times there's always going to be a city and a state. I can pre-fill all that data as well. Just for this example, I'll type fast, and we'll put Texas here because I am in Texas. And this is for the county of Harris, which is the county that I actually reside in. So we'll move that there. And Harris. And intuitively, I can go ahead and pre-fill this entire document out and so forth and so on. I'm not going to fill out everything. I just want to kind of show you some different options here. There are options to add checkboxes. Maybe there is on the form that you're notarizing, maybe there's a selection that the client has to make. We can put those checkboxes and help them with that, as well as addresses, city, states, and so forth and so on. So this is what that process looks like from a notary standpoint, where we can try to pre-fill as much of the application out as possible without signing anything to make the notarization process much more simplified. So now that I've annotated, which is what we've referred to it as, I've annotated this document with all of the required fields, I will go ahead and click the next button. And the notary just simply gives us a title, so I'll call it Demo Package 2. Again, Arushi already referred to as the notary, there's two different ways we can bill. But for this example, we're going to keep it simple. I would just bill the customer, and the customer would just simply pay online. This will be kind of like your Amazon feature, right? You go online, you buy it, and it's shipped to you. We're kind of like the Amazon of notarizations. The customer can pay online, and one and done, they get their document notarized, and they'll have access to it right away once we're done. And just for this acknowledgement, you're going to notice that there are some fields that are pre-populated like this one. It says notarization category. This can be changed at any time, so don't get hung up on this. For most of you on the call, you're probably not going to be doing a lot of the notarizations. You'll probably have someone doing it for you. And also we will, train them as well on not getting hung up on this. And this can be changed at any time during the process, because they may not know if the document is going to be an acknowledgement versus a jurat. But as a notary, I know the differences, and just for the sake of this demo, I'm just going to use the default for now. We can also choose the number of documents that will be notarized, as well as the number of stamps, and so forth and so on. But as we move down, this is the part where we get to choose the verification method. Now, I want to mention something. With this self-verification, this is where they would do the KVA, the identity verification, where they could upload something such as a driver's license, and they would go through the identification process. However, we do have this option for personal knowledge. In the state of Texas, we can use this. If I personally know somebody, I can notarize it without verifying their identity if I know them. However, this can only be used in our platform if it is a single signer. So if you have a husband and a wife, this will not work. It'll always push you back to the self-verification. They'll have to upload their driver's license individually and go through the normal verification process. However, if this is just a one-on-one, me and one client, then if I know that client, then yes, we can use the personal knowledge option. Okay. And then we have the option of setting an appointment. We can set it in the future. This is in military time, by the way, so just be cognizant of that. Or we can book in a session right now, which, because we're on this demo, we're going to go ahead and use the book now feature. And it gives me an opportunity to preview everything that I've done so far to make sure everything looks right. And I think we're good to go. So what's going to happen next is I'm going to press the send button, and it will send an email to the signer so that they can go ahead and start their process of prepping everything so that they're ready for the actual session. So without further ado, I'm going to press send, and then I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to turn it right back over to Arushi so she can show you the customer side. And don't forget to unmute, Arushi.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Paul. So now I'm going to start sharing, and I'm going to show you as a customer. Now I'm Arushi, not Arushi the presenter or Arushi the notary. I'm Arushi the client. Okay. So I'm Arushi the client, and Paul the notary has set up an appointment for me. So we're going to start from the beginning, and we're going to share. So you can see that I have received an email from help@notarize.com, which says that on behalf of Paul Todd, here's an appointment that's been set up for now. And Paul's the notary, I'm the primary signer, and this is the name of the document that he gave, right? And I should click here to join the meeting. It's not gonna be that simple. I have to go through some identity verification, but that's what happens. So it takes them to the user portal, which is going to be user.notarize.com. They will be asked to create an account. It's very simple. They just need to enter their phone number. They will get an OTP on the phone number. If they are an existing client like I am, I will just log in using my phone number. So I'm going to log in with my phone number, and I'm going to enter a 6-digit PIN that I have previously set up. Okay. And I come in and they say you have an unread document, please go to your tasks. So I'm going to go to my tasks. So here it says, here's a package that has been initiated. It's called demo package 2, and that's what Paul had initiated. And I go to actions, I click on actions, and I click continue. And it says the notary has prepared the session. Please make sure this information is accurate. So I want to make sure I can basically look at the document here. If I'm not satisfied, I can go back and I can change the document. But all I have to do is make sure all of this information is accurate. The only one thing I'm expected to do is add my address, because that is something that is required. I'm glad to see a lot of questions coming in. Please keep them coming in. We'll go through them. I did see some questions pop up around IP and all of that. So all of that is being captured, as is the address. There's a very detailed notary log, which we'll go through. You can also save it as a smart template if you expect to use that document over and over again with the annotation. So if you've got specific documentations that you're using all the time, you can basically save those as templates and use them so you don't have to annotate it again and again. That's a pretty cool feature. You can just go to the smart templates and do that. Oops, I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to go back to my task now. But just to show you that I can actually pick up where I left from, it's not a problem. So I'm going to go back to my tasks. I'm going to go back here. So I was just in the process of entering my address. Now I can click find. Now it's captured that address, right? I've looked through the document. I'm satisfied. It's what we had agreed to. So I'm going to click next. So now, so we went through this first step, which is upload and prepare documents. In this case, I didn't upload it or prepare it, but the notary prepared it and I just verified it. Now we add verify your identity. So this is where most of the clients need some hand holding, because even though we spend a majority of our time on the phone and love to take selfies and pictures of everything, we apparently don't do a very good job taking pictures of our driver's licenses. And a lot of people try and upload PDFs. So it's really important to tell your clients, please upload an image, and the image has to be clear, specifically of the back of the driver's license. The front of the driver's license, you know, if it's not as clear, we can live with it because we're going to see them on a call, but the back of a driver's license is important. So here, I'm going to first start with the front of my driver's license, right? So I upload that and you can see it's a nice clear picture, and I'm going to do the back. You can see, I can see all four corners. There's also a very neat feature called use mobile camera. So if they didn't have an image, they could just click that and that would send a link to their mobile phone, and they could use the camera on their mobile phone to take a picture right there, and it would directly upload to the web app. So it's pretty neat. You can also use a passport to do the verification. However, they do need to have a US Social Security number. So you cannot do it for a foreign client who doesn't have a US Social Security number, because the KBA is based on a social. So I'm going to click next. And what the system's going to do is it's going to read the barcode at the back of the ID, and it's going to OCR the data, which is optical character recognition. It's going to just read the barcode and basically read out all the information that's there. This information is sent to a third-party provider. So there's a lot happening in these few seconds to validate the information, and we get a verification success, okay, or failure. If it fails, they can always manually enter this information, and the notary can verify it on the call. So that is an option that is there. So there's no need to panic quite yet. This is the KBA. You'll see there's a timer here. I have 2 minutes just to answer these questions. The questions are not going to be civics questions. They're going to be on your Social Security, but because this is a demo, we're just going to go through these questions to give you an idea of how that interface looks and how the questions pop up, right? So we're going to get 5 questions and we have to answer them in 2 minutes, and we have to get at least 3 right. So 3 out of 5 is the pass. In this case, I've given 5 out of 5. It likes that, and it says, okay, you're done. Now you're ready to connect with the notary, and it says pay Paul. If you remember, we discussed that the notary is going to pay. The client is going to pay for the session. So the client can add a card, or they can click add new card, right? So it's $25 for each notarization, $10 for each additional stamp. The first stamp is included. I'm just going to click pay now. Okay, so now here it tells me that Paul's my notary and his status is online status is he's available. So I can actually connect with him. What's interesting to note is if I'm allowed to do this up to 6 hours before my meeting, but I cannot connect with him up to 15 minutes prior, right? So if your client wants to complete the ID verification and everything, you know, up to 6 hours prior, they can do that, just so that if there are any issues, but they cannot actually click on this connect call button till, till 15 minutes to the call. And since this is a meet now, we can click on it right now. So Paul, I'm going to click call now, connect now, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So you can share the notary receiving the call, and then we can run with you doing it. If you run into technical issues, I will end up giving the customer perspective, but let's try this. I'm going to click connect call, and I'm going to stop sharing.
Perfect. Let me share my screen really quickly. Boom, share, and let me pick up the call. So this is what it looks like on the notary side. So I'm gonna pick up the call. And voila. Okay, let me mute this one. Just a second. There it is. And mute. Perfect. Now we shouldn't get any feedback. All right. So now you get to see the notary side of things once we're in the actual session. And as a notary, there's a few legal things that I would normally do up front, verify that they understand that they're on the recorded call. This is being that they understand the document, all of the typical notary jargon that I would need to say before we even get started, right? But once we've gotten past that part, I can also, as you can see, I'll scroll down, I can see the ID. So now I can take a quick snapshot and make sure that the person on this driver's license matches the person that's on the actual call with me at that time, right? So I want to make sure as a notary, that person is who they say they are. And all of this is being recorded, which is very nice. Also, inside of the document, I'll scroll down. So you'll see here, we've already annotated what we put, what we're going to sign, all that good stuff. So here is where the customer would sign. So I would immediately tell Arushi, now that we've gotten past all of the introductory things, if you're ready to go ahead and sign, please go ahead and click where it says show sign on your side. And it's going to give her the option to click on it. And it will change right before our eyes. So now that I can see she has signed, and then we can move forward to the next step, which will go to page 2, which is where the notary would do their thing, which would be for me, I would go ahead and sign as well. And it's as simple as me as the notary clicking on it, choosing which one of these signatures I like, okay? And then as a notary, because there's some certificates in the background that you won't see, I have to verify my own password for my electronic signature, which is a text requirement. So now that that has passed, then I can go ahead and put my stamp, move it to where it goes on the form. And just that quickly, because we have the document up front, I was able to prep it. Notarization like this can take place and you can be done in less than 15 minutes with no problems. So we really try to take away a lot of the technical challenges that a customer may face, because you don't want the customer trying to fill this out themselves. So we try to make this as simple as possible as the notary. And then once this is done, I can also come down here. And remember, we talked about that field that was pre-populated, such as a jurat or acknowledgement. I can look at this document and identify which one it is, which this is an acknowledgement. So it's already pre-populated, but if this had been a jurat, I could have changed this. So all of the items that we talked about previously could be changed. The number of stamps, there was only one, so we're good to go. So once that's done, we're officially actually done. And at that point, now that I've verified the identity, I can literally press the submit button and it will end the call immediately. So I always let the client know that when I press the submit button, it's going to end the call. But if you have any questions, we can talk again offline and they can call me back or I can call them. But generally speaking, once this is done, they'll be calling you as the attorney, letting you know that the documents are ready to go and they'll have access to it, which we will show you in just a second. So I'm gonna go ahead and press submit if that's okay. And it'll say the video successfully recorded. Please allow for 10 minutes for you to actually view it. This is kind of like a worst case scenario. Generally, those videos come up a lot faster, but just understand there could be a 10-minute delay. All right, so now I can start sharing my video again. All right. And so now that that package has been completed, you'll notice that it'll show in my notarization history. So now this demo package 2 that we just completed now is in my list of documents that I've notarized. So as the notary, It's probably a little bit too early, but I'll click on details just to see if that recording is, well, it didn't take 10 minutes at all. There's the video. So the entire recording of that entire session, we can view it right here. Also, more importantly, the actual document that we notarized, here is a copy of it. Looks like it may still be generating the document, but let's just take a peek and see if it's ready. Looks like it's ready to me. So now at this point, even on the consumer side, they're going to see the same screen and they'll be able to download the document and forward it to the attorney, or if it's up to the notary to take care of it and get it back to the attorney, we can get that back to you as well by email or some type of secured messaging, whatever you prefer. But this is the back end. So I'll close this back out. Okay. And should I stop sharing right here?
Paul, do you just want to maybe scroll through the video really quickly so they can see what was recorded?
Absolutely. So let's press play. And you probably won't be able to hear the audio, but you can see us nodding our heads and laughing and smiling. Look at Rushi, she's so pretty.
Oh, thank you, Paul. Extra bonus points.
But the entire recording. So if there was any question about what happened, we have everything documented on paper, just like Rushi talked about the blockchain security feature that's in the back of the system. You can't ask for anything better for security of your customer as well as their documents that are being notarized.
Paul, you mind scrolling through the bottom? I think there was some questions around what's captured.
Absolutely. So I'll stop this video just so it doesn't use the bandwidth. So things that are being captured are the basic details such as the date of the actual notarization and the time. So this is time and date stamped, the type of the notary act that was performed, which in this case was an acknowledgement. If we scroll down a little bit, it shows who the notary was, where they're located, and the address of the notarization. As you know, wherever the notary is located is where the actual notarization is always triggered from. So if I'm in Harris County, every document that I do from a RON standpoint will always be Harris County, unless I'm maybe remote myself doing it from my laptop and I'm in Fort Bend, then I would change this to Fort Bend. But for the most part, most of the notaries will be working from a location that they'll be static. It'll always be at the same place in most cases. Also, it has information on the signer. So I've got date of birth, all of the information from that driver's license, that's all captured. Also, what verification document and did they pass or fail, such as the quiz, it shows that they did pass that KVA or the knowledge-based authentication quiz. Also the OCR, so everything passed, so you're gonna see all that. And then also the video log, which again, we have the video at the very top of the screen that we can always, and I believe we can download that and send that if need be as well. So these are all of the items that you'll be able to see inside of the actual session after it's been completed. And I'm sure that'll generate a few questions in the chat.
Yeah, there are quite a few great questions, which I definitely want to go through. So let's do this. If you want to stop sharing, I will go through the last few slides and we can jump right into the questions, or we can also try and take some of the questions that are related to platform functionality here. I think that might bring it to life for people just a little bit more. So I'm going to go into the chat and very quickly look at some of these questions. So let's start with the first one. It says, if an error or typo is found in a document during notarization session, can the underlying document be updated in real time, or is the new version of a document uploaded? So you want to quickly answer that, Paul?
Yes, so if it's allowed by the attorney, there is a function in our system that will allow us to white out certain data and correct it. We're already out of the session, so I won't be able to show it to you visually, but there is the option to do that. maybe one of the items is just, we thought it was going to be Montgomery County or some other county, and it's just something as simple as that, right? I can easily go in as the notary and update and white out Montgomery and change it to Harris or change it to Fort Bend, whatever the county is. Now, if it's something as simple as maybe a name was misspelled on the document, I think you get into more of a legal issue there that it may be advisable to have the attorney just send us a new document, right? Just make sure it's clean up front. And inside the session, we can always add a document and delete documents. So you don't have to have the corrected document, just as long as I can get it as the notary while I'm in the session. If you can get it to me pretty quickly, I can easily just upload a new document and delete the one that we're using, annotate it, have the client sign it on the fly. So there's no need to get out of the session and start over. I can do it while I'm already in the session. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've covered all the points. Does this program capture an IP address? Yes, it does. So it's actually really cool. One of the things I wanted to show you, which we don't have time for, the electronic signatures. When you look at the history, literally everything on the signers is captured. And this is secure private information. We have something called the @Notarize or @Cash Trust Network. And using the package ID, anybody can go into @Notarize Trust Network and verify the authenticity of the document. This is something unique only to us. So if you've got even a judge or whatever, or whoever that is a third party who's not privy to the transaction but needs to validate the document, you can give them the reference number. You would have to share the reference number with them, and they can find out exactly who signed the document and when. And this is one of the big benefits of using the blockchain that others can't offer. So we're able to open up our blockchain for query on transactions that have happened on the network with proper authority. The next question, how does this platform create a tamper evident document? So to be clear, almost all RON platforms are required to create the encryption of the document, which the document is locked once it's signed. When the notary signs it, you notice Paul had to add a electronic, his certificate, it's called the X509 certificate. He had to enter a password for that. And with that, his signature was encrypted, the document was encrypted, and the whole document is now tamper-proof. How do you know who answered the questions if you're observing the observer to be present? I'm not sure I understand the question, but if you're asking who's answering, we only muted the call because we were also on Zoom, right? Otherwise, the notary and the clients actually talking to each other on the platform, and the notary is saying, please sign, and then the notary can ask, so-and-so, can you confirm that you just signed the document? I see a signature, right? So the notary can always confirm that the person really did sign, and that's the real benefit of being on a video call with audio video technology.
I think what they're asking is on the KBA, because on the KBA, the customer's initiating it. So who's to say if their child is sitting right there beside them, helping them answer the questions for that, those 5 questions that they have to get 3 right?
Yeah, right. So there are some other questions that are specific to the states on New Mexico and Florida, provision that limits charges for RON. Without going into specifics, yes. However, you are allowed to charge for each additional signature or each additional stamp. So we don't charge for each additional signature. You can have a document with as many signatures as you want. We charge for the notarial act and the notary stamp, right? So for each additional stamp, and the states do allow you to charge, it's mostly $25 limit on the transaction. However, you could have an agreement with the notary to do some other overhead administrative tasks for you, which is not the notarial act. And that is something they're allowed to charge for. So to be clear, they're not allowed to charge more than $25 in most states for the notarial act, but they can charge, they can break up the charges. So if you notice during the demo, Paul went into the section which could be edited. One of the items in that section was other fees, right? So if the notary was doing a client billing and it was previously agreed, or if there were more stamps, they could inform the client on the call that I will be adding these charges. Are you okay with that, right? So the good thing is you're face-to-face with a customer. There should be zero surprises with either the attorney, the client, or the notary. Everybody should know what they're paying or not paying for the transaction. If you don't want us to bill the client, you will know upfront what it's going to cost you, right? You're going to know whatever it costs the client is what it's going to cost you. So in most of the states, it is clear what that limit is. So there's another question on, is the $25 cost for notarization per signature? So I think I answered that. It is for the stamp, the first stamp. If there's an additional stamp, it's $10 for each additional stamp. So you can have as many signatures on the document. We will not be charging you per signature. Okay. Okay, so there's some discussion here, which I think is valuable discussion on the charges, which we will definitely make a note of. So what support does the company provide if the authentication of the notarization is challenged in court? So you can definitely tell this is a group of attorneys. Only a group of attorneys would ask a question like this. So if it is a state that has a statute and a legislation for remote online notarization, I don't think there should be any discussion, because as long as the platform can prove that it followed all the requirements, right? So as long as it can prove that it ID proofed, it encrypted the document wasn't manipulated, I think they can prove with a strong level of certainty that they follow the procedures. I think the challenge you might have is maybe if you have a state that did not permit online notarization and you notarize a document in that state, like I said, California, for example, right? California doesn't stop you from notarizing documents from other state notaries. So it really, I don't think you're going to end up with a problem of it going to court. I think you're going to end up with a problem of someone not accepting it. You know, someone in a state like, you know, California or South Carolina saying, we don't accept remote online notarization. So you may end up with that problem. I do not think you will end up with a problem of a challenge in court. But if you do have a challenge, you know, I'm assuming that you're the best customer and the best defender as an attorney, that, you know, we will be able to provide you all the information that supports what our platform does, right? And we would say, here's all the information that shows we comply with the state regulations. Can the document be electronically recorded from the platform, or does it have? No, the document is recorded in the platform, if I understand the question correctly. Everything is done in the platform. Nothing needs to, it stays in the platform. It doesn't need to be downloaded. It can stay in the platform for as long as you're a subscribing member. It's the same for the videos and the notary logs. So as long as the notary is a paying customer, all the videos and all the documents will stay there. I think there was a question up on top on the notary log of whether this serves as a notary log, and the answer is absolutely. It has way more information than a notary log does. This is an electronic notary log for the notary for the electronic notarizations. Kindly go over with more detail on how to add notary information stamps. So when a notary registers on our site, they can upload an image of their stamp, electronic stamp, which is approved by the state, or they can click on generate stamp, which is something we have on our site, and generate a stamp based on the information. So we've got at no cost, no additional cost. So if they didn't have an electronic stamp, and we can generate one on the spot. So whoever the notary is will have their stamp already uploaded. So when they click stamp, it'll be their stamp, right? If at some point they want to change the stamp, they can let us know and we can change it in the back end. But the notary basically uploads their stamp. So I already answered the question on the notary's electronic journal entry. Do you confirm that no one? So, you know, how do you confirm no one else is present behind the scenes? You really can't, except asking the customer and seeing if they're distressed, or, you know, a notary is trained to be able to spot things like this, especially with experience. So if they find someone is nervous on a call or not comfortable, they can say, you know, are you alone? Can you confirm that you're doing this in your own free will? Are you okay to proceed? And if they're not comfortable, they can terminate the call. They can say, I'm not comfortable notarizing at this point. Can we set up a meeting at a later date? So, but there's really no way of knowing who's off screen. You know, there's.
I just want to add to that, because I know that question about the KBA, how do you know who was answering those questions? As a notary, that's one of the questions that we didn't go over. That's in a list of questions that I already have pre-populated on the notary side that I walked through. I actually asked them to confirm that they were able to answer the KBA questions without the help or of any other outside person besides themselves. They did it themselves. I just always ask that on the call to confirm that, so that if it ever came into question, we have that live video recording as well as a backup that they said it under oath that they did not have help from somebody else. Now, they could be lying, but again, they went under oath on the video recorded call saying that they didn't. So, but you're right, somebody could be helping them, and we can't not control that part.
Does Act Notarize keep the video? Yes, the video is kept in the notary journal as a part of the requirements. Although we've seen one document handle, can a full package be linked and scroll through? We can have as many documents as you'd like. The documents are not linked. They're going to be treated individually. So that's just something to note. You can have as many documents as you like, and you can go through each of them one after the other, but they're not linked to each other in one file. The questions that I asked as a part of the identification process. So this is a third party, generally, you know, like an Equifax or TransUnion or whoever the provider is, that basically comes up with the questions based on the social, right? We do not know what the questions are going to be. The questions are randomized. The questions are presented on the time. There are specific requirements on how many times we can present those questions. So if your client fails the first time, they have, in most cases, only one additional try before they have to wait for 24 more hours and they're locked out of the system. So, but most questions based on our experience have to do with residency, cars, family members, you know, who's related to you. It's stuff like that, that only you would know. Recording question is recording with the county recorder. Okay, I'm not sure I understand this question. In many places now, documents are recorded with public recorder electronically.
So may I ask the question?
Please do.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry I wasn't clear on my question, but you know, in many jurisdictions, probably if not most, you know, documents are now recorded with the public recorder's office, whether that's the county clerk or your county recorder, whatever the office is. But the documents are recorded electronically, which basically is a scan of a hard copy that is submitted to the recorder's office electronically. So my question was really, can one just record with the county recorder directly from the platform, or you actually have to download the document and then you now have a hard copy of the electronically or remotely acknowledged document?
Got it, got it. Will the county recorder accept an electronic copy of an electronic notarized document? Is the question. If the answer is yes, then you can, because the client gets an email with the documents. So if they are willing to accept an electronic copy, then you do not need to download the hard copy or print out the hard copy. You can just send them that actual copy. And so I think it would be a question for the public recorder. If they can accept electronically, then by all means, it can be sent electronically. So I hope that answers the question. If not, we can definitely, you know, take that offline, because we'd be curious to know as well. Thank you. So let me go back to the presentation. I know we jumped around a little bit from the agenda, but I thought this would be interesting to do while we're still talking about the platform and it's so fresh in your mind. So now I'm going to talk to you about, let me share the screen. how you can make this work for you, and how you can sign up as, yeah, let me, oh, okay. So these are the websites you can go to. So if you are a law firm that has more than one attorney, paralegal, or notary associated with you, you would register as a law firm. What that lets you do is it lets you find an admin, or basically designate an administrator who can add attorneys or paralegals or notaries to your law firm, right? Or you can create a law firm, and there's a code associated with the law firm, and then the attorney can go in and sign up using that code and linking themselves to that. So the advantage of registering as a law firm is, of course, the more attorneys or paralegals or notaries you have associated with your account, the more we can train you and have a better grasp of what your needs are. You can also designate a firm card to be charged across all of it. So registering as a law firm is recommended. But if you are just a single attorney or an individual attorney, you can definitely register as an individual attorney. If you expect to have any sort of support staff that is helping you do these things, then you can always register as a law firm with even 2 people, right? There's no limit to how many people you need in the law firm. You can register as a paralegal or just other support. And everybody, including an attorney and paralegal, has the same functionality in that they can create appointments on behalf of others. And you can register as another business, which you're not concerned with. If your firm has notaries, or you yourself are a notary, you can either align yourself with a law firm, with your law firm, or you can register as an independent notary. Okay, and that allows you to have the notarization function. We do verify the credentials of notaries online. We go to the Secretary of State websites and make sure, and when you submit the notary request, it has some specific requirements. So we don't need to approve an attorney, but we do need to approve a notary. But the process is very simple and really doesn't take that long. And if they're a client, I already went through how they can register. So the benefits are for a very low cost, and I say really very low cost, probably, less than what your daily cup of coffee costs, much less. You can have an integrated platform that gives you e-signatures, video signing, and notarization. So that's a huge benefit. You don't have to use another platform for electronic signatures as well. I know a lot of people have some other large softwares for e-signing, but you'll find that our platform is very simple, and it even has the option, I don't think anybody has it as of this date, which is video signing. And video signing, we didn't have a chance to do the demo, is just the same functionality you saw for notarization, except it's not a notary on the other end, it's just 2 people, and they are not notarizing, they're just signing, right? It's a similar experience. I've gone through this before. You can use your notaries or use ours, and we provide simplified billing and pricing with just sort of a one price, and billing the law firm or individual attorneys within that. So the pricing, normally there is a setup fee that we have waived for ABA members for the time being through the end of the year, and we're also offering a really low price through the end of the year. For less than $30 after that a month, you can have this functionality. Notary selection, if you choose to work with dedicated notaries, we can, if your needs are significant, we can definitely assign notaries to you who only work on your accounts. We can provide personalized training for you. If you have 5 or more subscribers of any sort, we'd be happy to, work with you and train your members to use the platform best they can. And of course, would be happy to provide you direct support. And you can always get in touch with me as well if you just want to pat my back or, crack a whip. We're always available. So I'm going to go back into the screen. I'm going to go back to the stop sharing. I don't know what happened. Let's see. So, this is a good time to ask questions. If people have questions that they want to ask on the screen, and I can also go through this list, but if people want to ask questions live, please go ahead. We've got 10 minutes and this is your time, and both Paul and I are here to answer questions for you. So I'd love to hear someone else's voice except mine. Okay, let me go through some of the questions here. Is a subscription required, or is this pay as you go? Really, the subscription is minimal. So hopefully that would not be a deterrent for you. It's a very minimal subscription. There's no setup for you right now. So at $30 a person per month, you can just sign up on the platform and start sending us your clients. If you want, as I said, the client to pay, they can do that as well. Will the PowerPoint be available? I think that's a question for the ABA folks, but I would say yes. I did see a few typos. Allow me to fix them, and I will PDF it and share it with Brian. And I know that the video will be available, so you can always access that. So there's also a listing of some of the laws that are becoming effective soon. So that's good to know. Thank you. As I said, this is always a rapidly changing field. So if you guys have feedback on that slide, or if you can help us with that, that's always great. Can the attorney direct the process as a... So that question is more a question for an attorney. I would defer that question to an attorney. I don't think I'm qualified, but maybe Paul, you want to take a crack at it? The question is, can the attorney direct the process as opposed to just observe? Example, go through capacity and undue influence screening related questions.
Great question. So I'm going to answer it the way I think I understood it. There have been situations where maybe the attorney is explaining a document to a client because maybe we're on a call and the client hadn't had an opportunity to maybe review everything, and maybe the attorney wants to be there so that if the client has a question, they can answer it right there on the spot as an observer. Then the answer is yes, because obviously you're the attorney. As long as it's like you said, you're not, there's undue, for lack of a better word, steering. You're not trying to steer the client one way or the other. You're just answering the questions for them. Because obviously me as a notary, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not allowed to explain anything on the document. My job is to verify their identity, make sure they're signing on their own free will, move forward with the notarization, make sure I'm in compliance with the laws of Texas. But yes, an attorney could be on the call and kind of direct traffic, if you will, answer any questions that may pop up because I can't, right? So it's probably a good idea to have the attorney on the call if that customer may not be 100% familiar with the information that's in there. Obviously, if it's a large document, every client's not going to be able to comprehend that much data at a time in some situations. So from my experience, that answer should be yes, they should be able to do so.
Great, thank you. So I think Chris confirmed that we can send the PowerPoint, so that's good. I'll send a PDF with those corrections. Just allow a day or so. By next week, you should have it, since it is Thursday. There is a comment here that New Mexico law allows lawyers to perform notarial acts, which is great to know. So right now we only have a select number of states, but there's no limitation where we're accepting notaries from, but there's no restriction on the number of states we can add. So, as you all come to us with your interest, we'll just verify with the Secretary of State that we're good to go, and the requirements that there's nothing, superly onerous on us, and we can continue. So that's good to know. If there are any other states, I would encourage you to find out if that's the case. If that is the case, I will, Orlando, just to answer you directly, I would recommend you register as a notary then. So you have the functionality to complete the notarization, because the notary has the same functionality an attorney does, just a bit more. So if you are allowed and you expect to be notarizing documents, don't register as an attorney, register as a notary. Or do both. But you have all the functionality you need as a notary, so you wouldn't need to. So we've answered the questions on the notary on the platform specific questions. I'm going to move on to some new questions that have come in. So the question is, are all of your notaries in Texas? No, absolutely not. We've got notaries from the 10 states that I spoke about. So Florida, Virginia, there's a whole list of the states that we're currently accepting notaries in. But, you know, if you want notaries from another state, I don't know where everybody on this call is from, but there's nothing restricting us. There are 1 or 2 states that require us to specifically get approval from the Secretary of State, but the others do not. So, you know, just let us know what state you are in and if you have an interest of a notary in a specific state. So we can definitely get you notary from whatever states you want, right? But the most common states are Texas, Virginia, and Florida, because they were the first to sort of do this. This is a great question. Has any court accepted the video as a proof of a party's intention/capacity? No, because this is brand new functionality. And as I said, we're like sort of the first to even launch it. So I wish you would use it and let us know. I don't see why or how they would not. I mean, there is absolutely, as long as the session is properly directed, I do not see how any court in sort of its fair mind cannot accept the video as proof, especially in these times. So if you sign up now, it would be $19.99 through the end of the month. But if you sign up for the annual, it's only $180 annually. So grab that price before that changes, right? So there's no setup fee at I think it's exactly $179.81 or something. So, but at $180, you can sign up for the year, and that's like getting 3 months free. So we'll apply that promotion to all accounts, including paralegals and attorneys. So there was a question on Michigan. So I had just mentioned that there are specific, you know, a very small handful of states that requires the vendor to be approved. And I think Michigan is one of them. And I have the form for Michigan sitting in my inbox for quite some time. And I think they requested a demo, and maybe I'll send them this video. So again, wherever there's a need, true need, we don't mind going through and making sure we're all set in that state and confirming with the Secretary of State. Illinois is included. New Mexico has the same approach as Michigan. As I said, there are 1 or 2 states, and New Mexico and Michigan are the 2 that I know of. And Ohio, that the Secretary of State requires a pre-approval. So we do have notaries from Ohio, and they have submitted the platform to the Secretary of State and gotten permission. So I don't think that should be an issue. But these are great questions, and it's always great to get this feedback from attorneys. So if there's anything else we need to do, we're definitely committed to doing that. So we've got 2 more minutes. Any last questions, thoughts? You know, hopefully 90 minutes is a long time. And so hopefully we didn't bore you and you found it engaging enough. Judging by the questions coming in, I think, Paul, you and I did okay.
Yeah, so, they seem engaged.
I think we did okay, so we can give ourselves a thumbs up. Thank you so much for your engagement. Does anybody from ABA want to come in and say something before we wrap up?
Just thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Arushi.
Thank you. We will arrange for the document to be sent out. I will send it to ABA, and our contact information is displayed here. Please feel free to reach out to us via email or phone. Email is always best. You can always email us at help@notarize.com. If you have any trouble registering or need any additional hand-holding, please let the help desk know. We'll be happy to help you at any time. And Paul, thank you so much for doing this with me. And thanks everybody for joining. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and y'all can drop off at your leisure. Thank you.